Welcome to Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. I'm your host for this session. I'm Sean.
And I'm Kevin.
And together we're going to talk about a unique problem that you might be having in your sales process and your sales world. This 15 minutes is designed for salespeople, sales managers, and CEOs of the company that are trying to increase their revenue and trying to be more productive in your sales processes. So let's get started.
The last couple of weeks, we have been talking about consumable sales, selling a product that gets used up by our customers on a regular basis. Think the lubricant salespeople, the steel salespeople, the building trades, the 2x4, the metal sheathing kind of salespeople. There's a lot of people out there that are listening to our podcast that they have to sell the same product over and over to the same customer over and over. In this case, we're going to talk a little bit about what are you doing when you don't have customers, when you're brand new, when you are the greenfield, you are going after the greenfield customers, you are going after the customers that don't have a relationship with your company, with your distributorship, if that's the case. Kevin, I think you have some ideas because you spent a lot of time in this industry. Why don't you start us off on some wisdom here?
Sure, Sean, and thanks, because this is the kind of topic that I think is both strategic and tactical. You get the best of both worlds when you start thinking about your business. So many salespeople and sales leaders get accused of working in the business and not on the business. This is actually one of those unique times where we can do both at once. This is high value, whether you're the CEO of a business and you are the sales leader and the salesperson, or you're a brand new salesperson that's just been hired onto a company and you've got to go build a new territory or build out what is the existing shell of a territory. Let's dive in. I like to think that everything we do as salespeople, when we have a consumable or a product that you don't just sell once, is that we got to give somebody enough reason to give us a try. The sales strategy is give me a try. Whether you've gone through Sandler, that give us a try as a strategy, or it's pricing strategies and product strategies and where you play in the market. But at the largest part of where new customers are acquired for salespeople, especially new salespeople, is when somebody needs something that their number one or two supplier can't provide them. We've talked about paper in the past. If I am a paper salesperson, I'm breaking open a new territory. It's funny, actually in college, Sean, I took a professional sales class, and our end of course project for that class was designing an ink toner sales route that was really, it was too big, and that's part of the project, is figuring out who to call on first. So even when I was in school, I was thinking about solving this problem. And what you end up with is you got to figure out what cadence am I, as a new salesperson, going to visit my territory. In some of these sales situations, you could have an entire state as a territory. Calling on somebody every week is a real challenge. You might be able to do it. If hindsight's 20/20, doing that better would probably involve you as a salesperson designing a system where you can't be there every week. So you got to build out the success support system to be present even when you're not. How do we get new clients? First, we're going to figure out the relationship maps. We're going to figure out our core product, our ideal client profile. But if we've been in a territory for a while or somebody's been there before us, they've probably called on all the ideal clients. Our competition has certainly called on our ideal clients here. This is where we have to take a little bit of creativity and look down our line sheet, maybe going to the B items, or maybe we're number one across the entire company in this product area, but for the purposes of breaking up a new territory, we're going to focus on our B capability, our core B capability, our number two offering, because we know that our A capability has already been saturated. We've got to find a way to get the door open. If we go in and talking about our A item, they're just going to run right to price, and that's going to be about the end of it. And that's not the way to build a territory, right? You don't want to build a relationship based on just price, because that's wobbly to even think about. And frankly, you won't make any money as a salesperson. If you're a sales leader out there thinking about how you're going to help somebody enter a territory, think about coaching them on the peripheral items. Think about B, C, and 3, 4, and 5, not D-ranked items, but the 2, 3, 4, and 5 in terms of priority on your sales. Also think about maybe your B persona or your B level ideal client. If you focus on home builders, maybe you want to focus on remodelers. If you tend to focus on school construction, maybe you need to start with a school maintenance offering or a school construction project as an offering, or a repair projects as an offering. There's a lot of different ways to navigate these different areas, but being intentional is where you should start. Don't just say, hey, here's the 4 points on the map that create the square that is your geography. Don't start there. Don't just assign counties. Talk with your salesperson about what they could and should sell, and what you as a sales leader have done to research and know why you hired him in the first place to go tackle this. It's not just because you woke up one morning and said, I think I should go enter a new territory. That's not good enough. If that's what you're doing right now, go back and listen to our strategy one from 2 weeks ago. Listen to the strategy and the process. That'll help inform why you should go to a new territory. And also, when you get to this point about thinking how you're going to put someone in a territory and help them be successful, this is where it all comes full circle. When we're thinking about those areas where we have to find new ways to compete, I remember from my time in sales, I had a urban and a rural part of my territory. Both were distinctly different. I had almost different product sets I would sell to each. When you're coaching your salespeople, or if you are a salesperson that has that kind of differentiation, look across your actual geography. If you're in a rural area and you're selling water systems, most of those are one house, one water system. If you're in an urban area, it's many houses, one water system. It's just that simple. And keeping that kind of simple, what is it that I can best sell first, will be a guiding thought when you enter a territory. I have some friends right now, it's 2024, and some people have started new jobs this year already, and they are faced with this exact challenge. They have gone from one industry to another, so they've got to quickly figure out, what can I sell first to earn a commission check, or to get off a draw, or to meet minimums, all those things. And if you are faced with that, you need to quickly figure out, what is the highest value? Notice, not cheapest thing, that's the highest value you can sell to solve someone's biggest or second biggest problem that you know you can box your competition out on.
I'm going to build off of what you said, Kevin, because I think that this goes into what I call, it's easier to sell to somebody that's buying from you now problem. The reality is, everything that Kevin said, and I'm just going to say it a different way, but I'm not disagreeing with anything you said, and that is, you need to get that prospect, that company that isn't buying from you today, to buy something from you. You need to start to develop that relationship so you earn the right to sell more to them. It's really hard to sell to a brand new customer on the biggest and most expensive thing that they buy. It's really, really hard. It's a lot easier to sell something that they don't spend a lot of time on. It's a lot easier to sell the ancillary items to them, in the hopes that you build credibility, your company then builds credibility, and now you can start asking for the right to quote and to sell on that big thing that you sell, that A item that we were talking about before earlier. A couple of weeks ago, we did a podcast. It was primarily me doing a monologue, and I appreciate you giving me that opportunity to do that, Kevin. But I was primarily doing a monologue. I think it was the first week in January is when this one came out. And I talked about the various ways of being competitive or having a strategy and selling different things. And I talk about the fracture type of methodology, or the fracture strategy. And it's splitting off the portions of the deal that you can't be competitive in. In Kevin's description that he gave us earlier, he talked about that your competitor has already locked up that A product. He's already locked it up and they're doing great, or they're doing fairly well, and you're having a hard time gaining traction going after that. That's fine. You need to develop a strategy that allows that to go away. And that strategy is, or could be, sell something else. Sell something that splits off part of the deal. Maybe it's part of the services that your competitor does, and he doesn't do a great job on one part of the service. Whatever that might be, you want to find something that you can sell a little bit to that customer, because it's a lot easier to sell to a customer when they're a customer. It's a lot easier to earn the right to say, hey, we've done a great job for the last couple of months taking care of you. Can we have a conversation about that other stuff? And that's when you start to growing and you start developing a strategy that's unique to that client. But the first part of that is that they actually respect you, they know you, they've come to understand your processes a little bit. They know how you bill. You know how they expect to pay. You've got all that worked out. You're on their vendor list. Shoot, that's a big challenge right there in many cases, especially if you're talking to a Fortune 500 kind of a company, even a Fortune 1000 company. They have vendor lists. If you're not on the list, you're not selling, period. But you got to get on the vendor list in some cases when you got a greenfield territory. And the way to do that is to find that little thing that they need, that little thing that you can sell. You can make a decent amount of profit from it, and it's worthwhile doing that transaction with them. And now you're on the list because now you have the right to ask for more. And that's a great strategy to grow into that account. Now, the other way to get accounts is to actually say, okay, where can we sell? But you take your B products or your C products that Kevin was talking about earlier, or your 2 or your 3 or whatever, the less popular products in your line card. And you start saying, who is the best company for me to sell that to? Because when you're a young salesperson or a new salesperson in a new territory, new company, you need to make a name for yourself. There's some internal selling that happens when you're a new salesperson. You need to prove your worth. You need to prove it out that, yeah, you hired me for a reason because I am really good. And I'm going to show you that I can be the best push button salesperson that there is, even though push buttons are like the 10th item on my line card, but I'm the best one that there is. I'm going to be better than anybody else at selling push buttons. I'm going to be better than anybody else at selling these little things that nobody really cares about, but I'm the best that there is at doing that. And now I can be best at selling something else as well. Just give me that shot.
That is so critical to think about what you can be the best at. When you and I do these workshops for different companies, some of our clients, where we talk about what are we the best of the world at. I mean, you can remember some of the titans of industries that would actually exit a market if they weren't number 1 or 2. If they were number 3, they were exiting the market regardless of how many numbers were in their revenue line. If they were not number 1 or 2, they were out because they couldn't be number 1 or 2. There's no reason to be there. Now, Sean and I are not suggesting you exit your product lines right now. Don't hear us say that. But we want to plant the seed with you that, hey, how can I ascend to be the best in a market? Sean, I want to deviate a little bit here and talk about a couple of things. It's when to go off of an ICP or off of your ideal client profile, especially for the new territory guy or girl who is entering a new place that needs to find traction. It's the person who's trying to get off of a draw quicker. They're trying to find new outlets. They're trying to fill a truck. If they've got a dedicated delivery truck of sorts and they have 26 pallet positions, but they've only got 10 filled, they need to find the rest of that tail of that truck, not just the nose to be full. Thinking about this, I want to challenge everyone to think about the A, B, C, and D lines that they have where they can sell one SKU in bulk to a non-traditional customer. From my past, there was an economic downturn. It was in the housing market, and we had to do exactly that. We had very full shelves and nobody buying from our traditional ideal client profile. So what we did is we said, okay, how can we differentiate our message and take these same products to a new market to deleverage our balance sheet was really what we were doing. The strategy at the corporate levels, way, way, way above me, was how do we deleverage our inventory position? And the way we did that is we got really niche on a few items. And you hit on it a few minutes ago, being the number 1 push button salesperson. That's a key strategy. As we're wrapping up today's episode, I want you all as salespeople and sales leaders to think about who in my market buys something on my line card, but probably can't buy anything else. But here's the kicker. It's got to be enough of that one thing to move the needle on your sales. If your territory value per month is $50,000, it can't be for $18. We're not talking that. We're talking commas and zeros in this sales process. But it takes some critical thought. But if you're that new salesperson thinking about how to break open new doors and really kick things off right this year, here's a strategy you can apply. Get somebody to give you a try in your traditional ICP, and then look for non-traditional ICPs that can buy from your line card, but maybe not at the total volume you need. The strategy is, how do I fill my truck there? So I hope that's valuable. I hope you have enjoyed this past 3-part series. If you're just now joining us for this episode, our first podcast was about strategy and process. Our next one was last week was about how to box out your competition, how to establish. And this week is all been about finding new clients. Hope it's been valuable. I hope you have a great week upcoming. Happy selling.
And that's a wrap. Thanks again for joining Kevin and Sean on Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. Tune in every Tuesday, or when our podcast drops every Tuesday at 4:30, wherever you consume your podcast. And don't miss our monthly CEO workshop, where we unpack some of the big CEO questions facing your business. Until next time, we're looking forward to seeing you. Happy selling.